No, I don't have COVID.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we are live. This is our 1 o'clock session, and it's going to be loud and live, and people are going to talk over each other. I'm sensitive, so I'm going to step out so I don't have to be talked over. But welcome. This is Adrienne C. Smith. I am the founder of the Can Diversity Collective, Inkwell Beach Live, our virtual session for 2021. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with our guests, Monique Nelson, Walter Geer, Gabrielle, Shirdan, and Roland Martin, who has his own graphics. Everybody should be like Roland and bring their own graphics to the table. We are having a conversation today about accountability, period. Okay. If anybody thought that was a typo on the flyers that went out, it was not. It's accountability, period. Okay. So they're going to talk about this. I'm going to step out. Accountability as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, life, living, the whole art of humanity. I hope you guys are ready and prepared. Pop your questions in the chat, and we will get started now. Walter, please take it away.
Thank you, thank you. I have to say that I am extremely excited about this opportunity. When this came about, and I was asked, well, who, put together the panel, who do you want to bring together? And I said, I'm going to bring together these three people here for so many reasons, because these three individuals are people that are not only good friends of mine, right? People that I admire in terms of what they do, but these three people are individuals that speak out. And I think it's important that we actually, and we are all going to look at somebody's screen for a quick second here. But these are, so we're going to just make sure that we minimize whomever's screen so we can actually stop screen sharing. But these are three individuals that talk. Thank you. These are three individuals that talk loud, right? And I think that when we talk about accountability and we talk about the importance of speaking up and speaking out, I say that it's like we need to see more of us having these types of conversations, and we need to see more of brands being more authentic. So with that being said, I mean, look, everybody knows every individual on this screen. I'm sure I don't need to say who they are, but I will, however, just let everyone just go around really quickly and just give a quick sentence or two on who you are and what you do. But I'm Walter Geer, ECD, XD over at VMLY&R. Monique, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Monique Nelson. I'm the chair and CEO of UWG, the longest standing multicultural marketing advertising consultancy in the world.
Boom.
I'll go next, ladies first. I can't follow that, but I am Gabrielle Shirdan, VP Creative Director at McCann. Super excited to be here. I see that the chat is already booming, so super grateful for the opportunity to talk about accountability.
I'm Roland Martin, host and managing editor of Roland Martin Unfiltered, CEO of New Vision Media, Inc. And next month, I'll be launching Black Star Network, a digital news and information network that will be dropping on our OTT channel next month.
Great. So look, I want everyone watching to know that we are gonna play this like a conversation. Everyone here has the opportunity to actually be a fly on the wall and sit and listen to us talk. So please, if you have questions, pop them in the comments area and we will start to roll. We'll bring them in. But I want to start real quick. And again, all of us are going to be asking random questions, but I'm going to lead here with just asking, like, what does accountability mean to each of you? Anyone feel free, popcorn style.
All right.
Easy results. I don't give a damn about your press releases. I don't care about your Instagram posts, your Twitter posts. It's results. And that's what it boils down to. And most people don't actually want to be accountable. What we have is we have a whole bunch of folks who are, as we say, faking the funk, who are slapping themselves on the back, who are happy to go to these, let me just go ahead and say, happy Negro events, pick up a diversity award based upon doing the minimal. As opposed to actually being true change agents. And so that's what it boils down to. I'm not interested in what you have to say. I'm interested in what you are doing.
Yep.
I'll follow that up with accountability means that the audio's got to be matching the video, right? You have to do the work. Accountability means you have goals. Accountability means everybody knows what those goals are and they're all working towards that. And accountability means you actually had to do something. It's critical, right? And at the end of the day, what we've seen is a lot of talk, which, you got to start with the talking, but eventually you've got to put the project plan together, right? There's got to be the project management. You have to do the work. And for what we're talking about transformation, which means it's a journey. So the other piece that, we really want to get away from is, don't just do it for now. You got to do it for later, which means let's keep working at it, right? Let's fumble, let's stumble, let's make some mistakes and do some corrective actions. But that actually means you're doing something. So that's what we want to see, right? Not that you can't, but that you should, and that it may not be pretty, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I love that you say project management, because it is a job, right? And you have to treat it like a client. Diversity has to be taken seriously, just like we take our pitches seriously, because we pull all-nighters in this industry all the time for that. So imagine if we put the same amount of love into this, the diversity, as we do into the pitch that's due tomorrow. So I definitely think accountability for me is down to responsibility. I think it's also taking responsibility for the collective, and not just the people who are the effects, who would have to face the effects of the diversity issues. Like, we shouldn't be the ones that are the only ones raising our hands, the only one cleaning up the mess, because at the end of the day, we didn't make it. And so we're constantly having to kind of lean on and speak up and teach people how to treat us, as opposed to us all kind of raising our hands. Because I think knowing that everyone has a place to play in this role, as a role to play in this, is key, and we can all take responsibility, and everyone has an ability to be accountable.
Walter, one of the most important books I always reference is Dr. King's book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? And he not only was he speaking of Black folks in this book, laying out a blueprint, but he was speaking of white folks as well. And this is something that King wrote in 1967. There was a reason why this was his most unpopular book. He said, whites, it must frankly be said, are not putting in a similar mass effort to re-educate themselves out of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that the white people of America believe they have so little to learn. But the thing on the next page which really jumped out, and I think this speaks to the advertising industry, it speaks to corporate America. The great majority of Americans are suspended between opposing attitudes. They are uneasy with injustice, but unwilling yet to pay a significant price to eradicate it. What we're seeing in corporations and advertising agencies across the country, we're seeing economic apartheid. We're seeing folks who are deliberately hurting, destroying, killing Black-owned ad agencies, who are doing the exact same thing with Black-owned media. You read Brett Pulley's book on BET. When Viacom bought BET, they discovered that BET was getting paid $1,500 for a 30-second ad, and MTV was getting paid $8,000 for the same ad. What's the difference between BET and MTV? There's a value in ad agencies in corporate America where they value a white consumer more than a Black consumer. And then people want to say, oh no, we're all equal. No, you're not, because the money not equal, the treatment's not equal, and that economic apartheid has to end.
Absolutely. I think that's so key, Roland, on so many levels. We're all working now to kind of make sure that that gets elevated, right? That, everyone deserves investment. Everyone deserves the ability to perform, right? And performing doesn't just make just make do, right? There's so much that has to be fundamentally shifted. I think we all know that we can, do a little something, but we really should do more than that. We're working with different businesses, right? We're working with the Acceleration Project right now, really trying to say, how do we support businesses in the gap so that they can be the next Snapchat, so that they can be that next, big media conglomerate out there. But that we know that comes with significant support at the beginning, brand investment, as well as support along the whole journey. And we tend to forget that the business that you're in is not always the business that you know. And we have to now make access and resources available to make sure that we can not only make sure that our businesses survive, but that they thrive and win the long game.
Well, No, go ahead, Gabrielle. You look like you were going to say something. I didn't want to cut you off. If you are.
Oh, no, go for it. Go for it.
So I was going to say that let's back it up a little bit, right? So we are in a moment now where the world is listening. We've been in this kind of this space for the past year now. Last week, June 2nd, made a year, right? A year since every company, all these individuals posted black squares. Next week on Juneteenth was a day that everyone stepped forward and they started making all these promises. So I want to ask, I feel as though like we are all tired, right? Am I right in saying we're all tired? I say that because of the two things. Number one, I feel none of those companies that made barely any, I'm not going to say none, but barely any, have actually come out and said, hey, check this out. This is the progress that we've made. This is the action. We take accountability for the fact that we might not have gotten to where we wanted to get, right? But here's what we're doing to get there. And then the other piece, I felt as though last year, this time, there were so many of us, so many people that looked like us. They were using their voice. They were talking on social media. They were being loud and boisterous and beating on their chest. But a year later, I don't see any of that. There's like a few of us having these conversations. And so is it this kind of, like, I feel like we're in these Trump moments, right? Where like so much abuse happens in such a short period of time that it like you start to lose track of what's going on and what's reality and what's not. And it starts to become tiring. So my thought is this a conditioning, right? Because it feels like this has happened before.
It has. Repeatedly.
Yes.
It is the history of black people in America. 243 years of slavery, followed by 10 to 12 years of Reconstruction. If you actually study the Reconstruction period, and then look, this is real simple, and y'all gotta understand, I have a home studio, and I keep stuff with me. And for people out there, I'm always trying to give folks stuff. This is real simple. Read Du Bois' book on Reconstruction. Read Eric Foner's book on Reconstruction. White America, after 4 or 5 years, were like, okay, we're tired. All right, look, we didn't pass the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. Okay, can we just move on now? And then, of course, you get the Great Compromise of 1877, which ushered in 92 years of Jim Crow. You had 13 years of the Civil Rights Movement. What happened? Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, Fair Housing Act. All right, we good. Yo, we tired. Y'all got all that you needed. Okay, that has been our history. We can track in American history after where you had so-called black success, every point, all right, we're tired. No. The problem is you actually haven't done anything. You haven't done anything. And I'm gonna go back to what King said in 1967. He says, white America is not psychologically organized to close the gap. Essentially, it seeks only to make it less painful and less obvious, but in most respects to retain it. This is not a year. The first Reconstruction was 12 years. The second Reconstruction 20 years. I keep arguing we're in the third Reconstruction. This is a 20, 30, 40-year effort. So you got to put the work in for the next 2 to 3 decades to truly create change.
So Gary, I just want to push it over to you for a second, because like when I look at this space and why I absolutely adore you, not just for the creative work that you do, but because you always step up and speak out. And I don't see, and this is real talk, I don't see many black women, right, that are in our space, more importantly, that are creatives that speak the way you speak. And I think that's important. I'd love to kind of just touch on like the importance of speaking up and speaking out right now at a time where we all seem to be getting silent.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I do think there are hundreds of black women that have come before me that have spoken up. And I mean, Monique is a legend in the game, and there are people and black creators and black marketers and black advertisers in this industry that have been fighting this fight long enough so that way I can fight this fight and be as loud as I am in the room. But I am definitely not the only one speaking. There are people who are shut down when they are speaking, when their volume is turned down. So it's actually this like, I'm speaking for the people in the room that maybe are afraid to speak, that quite frankly don't have the privileges in the space in the room that I have to speak. So I have to speak, right? And I think that's why, we would be here all day if I started listening to the black women or the black men in this industry that have built this industry and built the table that they think they're inviting us to. So I really do feel like, we have to speak, and also we can't be the only ones that are speaking. I think that's the power. I created this platform called Equally Speaking, because in order to be a real ally, you have to speak alongside me. You have to speak for me. Sometimes when I'm tired of being the only one, you know, it's like there's this notion of like mansplaining, right? Sometimes in the room, my idea sounds better when it comes from a white voice. And I had a friend who told me, another Black woman who's super vocal in the space, and she said, it's not that what you're saying is wrong. It's that they're not used to you being the one saying it. And so that hit home for me. And it was like, I have this idea, it's right. Or I have this perspective, but it's just not getting through because of maybe how I look or how I sound. So I think that we have to just continue to speak because now they're listening more and more. I don't know if that makes sense, but there have been people who have just been fighting the fight.
Oh, it makes total sense.
All day.
The world right now is rushing to create the work that people that look like us have been fighting for our entire careers. And now they want to rush and put it on air. And that's beautiful. Sure, I will absolutely be the optimist in the room. But I'd be remiss if I didn't speak about people who've been fighting for this.
Monique, I got to ask you too, because like when we look around this space of advertising, there are no CEOs that look like you.
There's a few.
But but so here's my question though. How, like, when we talk about accountability, I like to fall back on the fact that, look, like, one of the biggest issues I see when I look at this space, and it's not just advertising, it's outside of that space as well, is that we need to see more individuals that look like us at the top, right? And the reason I say that is because when we see these individuals at the top, I come and I believe this is a place I can thrive. This is a place where I can grow, and now I have a pathway to the top. I'd love to learn a little bit more about your experience as a Black woman who happens to be a CEO at a creative agency under a huge umbrella, right? And that being said, how you use your voice to help move the needle around this space.
Well, first, I want to just say that ownership matters, right? So the fact that my family and I are the majority owners of Uniworld and that we are an affiliate to this ginormous network gives me a position that is unique.
Power.
Yeah, I've got to say that. And I think that's important. And that's why I am a huge proponent of making sure that equity and ownership are always a part of any conversation that we're having, because it makes a difference. And what I do every day is to make sure that I'm developing more me's, right? That I'm developing people that have, if you want to work inside, have an entrepreneurial spirit, right? If you're working outside, have an entrepreneurial spirit, and ensure that even if you can, I live for bringing diverse suppliers to my clients and to brands to make sure that they have visibility to the fact that, yes, there are Black and brown and Asian and lesbian people that do this, right? Like, we can talk about storytelling in really beautiful ways. I love the fact that I can do productions, all Black cast, front of camera, back of camera. You know, how do you do that? And you've got to be intentional, right? It's really about coming to your brands, coming to your clients, empowering them to say, yes, you will get great creative that comes from an all BIPOC, production. Yep. And that's okay. I live for it. But at the end of the day, you are allowed, and I hear you all the time, Walter, talking about you can do that in any space as long as it's inclusive. And I mean, truly inclusive, right? Yeah. Belonging matters. We know that if we do this right, and you've got the right voices at the table, you're going to get the most elegant, wonderful outcomes. It's going to connect. And oh yeah, by the way, you're going to sell some stuff. Mm-hmm. It's going to be good. And you're going to sell it over and over again if you do it right. So as I look to you and Gabrielle, I'm always so warm because it's about us being everywhere, right? Not just in certain spaces, right? Like, I'm good. I want to develop the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. I want to make sure there's more agencies that are like ours. I like partnership. I think that's important too. Allyship to me is a verb. Yeah. And as long as you have people that are willing to work and rock with you to make you better, I want to bring more and more people into the flow to be able to amplify communities. Because the more Black and brown businesses we have that thrive, there's more places for them to go work. There's more places for them to have a choice, right? Because every place isn't for everybody. And you should be allowed to participate at any level, anywhere, and bring that value to clients, consumers, as well as this industry.
I want to ask, and then we can start with Roland on this one, but again, the biggest reason why I brought you three here together is because, like, between us, like, we speak out quite often, but I don't know that many people understand that it's not an easy thing to do, right? However, I will say, right, I will say that we need people doing it from all areas. Now, Roland, my question to you, man, is like, you are loud, man. Like you are out there every day. People should tune you. My man's got the background there. You could see his show, right? And what I love, man, is that you have no filter, right? Unfiltered, right? And you come out and say things that are super uncomfortable. And you got directly at brands. You went out GM. You went out a bunch of folks. My question is, man, like how do we tell other people to speak up like this? Like, how do we show them the importance and that it's okay?
Well, first of all, the reason I could say what I do is because, to Monique's point, I own it. I control it. I don't have bosses. I look into the mirror and I go, Roland, who you gonna hit today? The second thing is, and again, that's just the real deal. The second thing is, I've managed my business appropriately, so I'm not in debt. I don't owe anybody, and so it's the financial freedom as well. The reason a lot of folks have been unable to say stuff is because we're shackled by debt. I can't do that because if I lose this client or if I don't get this contract, then I can't exist. What I also understand is if I'm getting nothing today and my prospects tomorrow is I'm going to get nothing, what the hell do I have to lose actually saying something? I've had people say, hey, man, the stuff that you and Byron Allen and Todd Brown and Butch Gray's, man, when y'all published that letter against GM, here's the deal. Show me the lies. So all of a sudden now, it's very interesting. All of a sudden, Dentsu, Group M, and all these other folks now are actually using the phrase black owned. They weren't using black owned before. They were using BIPOC, multicultural, inclusive, diverse firms. Nah, damn that. We're talking black owned. And so it's forcing folks to also now. So now you had folks, the 20 clients for Group M come out and say, hey, we're going to do a 2% spend with black owned media. Target says we're going to do 5%. I still ask the question, what were you spending before the announcement? Was it 0.5? Was it 0.0? Was it 1? Because see, now the rubber meets the road. And so what I am saying every day to my audience is I'm educating them by saying, if we're buying 11.4% of General Motors cars and we were getting 1% of the money, we got a problem. If we're responsible for 40% of the dollars going to McDonald's, but we were getting 2%, we got a problem. And so when people now come out and say, well, we're going to spend X percentage, no. What's the number? How are we going to track it? And so you got to do it. Look, I'm 52. I'll be 53 in November. I remember, Ben Chavis and I was highly critical of a comment that he gave in General Motors press release when he was like, gave a story interview, said these things take time. And I love Ben. Ben, you 73. I can run the chart. Ain't much time. I mean, we just got to be honest about we got one life. And somebody has to be willing to stand up now as opposed to writing a book when we're 70, 75, saying how things were. That's the difference. You got to be willing to say, who is going to change the game now? So the next Monique, the next Gabrielle, the next Walter, the next Roland isn't dealing with 1% and 2% 20, 30 years from now. And I'm not interested in give us time. What did King write in his book? Why we can't wait. No, we're not waiting. Show me the money today.
Well, so why we wait, right? Why we wait is, okay, let me back up here. The Me Too movement, why do you think that moved so fast? Because men were scared as shit, right? They were scared, oh no, can't be me next. I'm going to go out and make this change as quick as possible.
It was also because white women were in power. No.
Right. Right.
White women in power.
Absolutely. But I'm saying, you correct, yes. But there was fear. What I'm saying is there was fear. Fear pushed that, right? If we look at now, there's nothing to fear, right? Like what's happening, right? So I'm curious, Gabrielle, I'd love to get your point of view.
Yeah, I think your mention about the gender issue is actually quite interesting. I think about this often. It's an easy comparison, right? Like, especially when you see work that's speaking to Black Lives Matter and you see a spot, and my immediate reaction is often, would you talk about a woman or a sexual assault in that way? And I think gender is a much more comfortable space for the industry and the world to speak about, much more so than race. And I think that's also why that escalated as quickly as it did. It's easy to solve. It's men and women. It's white women. It's all genders matter, right? And so race is much more scary and complicated. And speaking of being responsible, is it causes people to look at their own actions in creating the systems that have gotten us here. And that is what makes it scared, is they have to look at themselves before they can even look at the industry. And we're trying to face and fix this thing on a surface level as opposed to a systemic level. And that's what worries me. And I speak from obviously a creative perspective. It's like, okay, we'll tell a Black story. Okay, we'll cast a Black person. But it's about equity and ownership. And that is why you can't just tell a Black story without a Black director, a Black production company, a Black agent, a Black DP, a Black editor. All of those things help create or shape the system. The Black square effect is not going to solve it. You have to get underneath of the Black square and kind of solve the system. And I think it does. The accountability is perhaps what they're so scared of. So it's easy for them to say, oh, we're still working on our diversity plan. Oh, it takes time. And yes, it does. But if you treated it like the job that it needs to be, it would move a lot quicker, because the reality is we're losing talent. You're losing consumers. You're going to lose brands. And the clients are going to, when the clients demand it, the agencies will react. And I think that is the fear that they need, is you affect the pockets, you affect the money.
And I'm going to push back. I'm going to push back on Walter and say, I think there is fear, and it may not be on the surface, but I got to tell you, I sit in boardrooms. I talk about that PE ratio. We look to the future. The consumer of the future is not the consumer of today. And I can tell you that there is fear at the very, very top. They don't want to lose based on not answering a question today that 10 years from now will cause them to, I'm sorry, be out of business, right? Not just lose business, be out of business. If you're not relevant, if you're not building the products today for the consumer of tomorrow, you are out of business. Yeah. If you don't have the shades to represent what's happening, you're out of business, right? There is no more availability. This is no longer relevant. And what happens to irrelevant clients? They're gone. Ask Polaroid.
Yeah, I saw the CMO of Clubhouse posted on LinkedIn. If you guys saw this, she posted about how a lot of these agencies have been reaching out and say, well, why didn't you choose to work with us? And she said, very simply, your teams were not diverse. And that was it. You didn't get the business. You won't win the pitch. And that's why when I say treat diversity like a business, treat it like there's something worth losing or something that's worth fighting for. And I think you're losing talent. I've turned down so many opportunities because I looked at the team's pages and I don't want to be reflected in that. And I think clients are starting to make those same demands. That's the fear.
Walter, they're fearing lawsuits. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm in conversations with these Black only. Look, why are they freaking out because what Byron is doing? Because he's hitting folks with lawsuits. That's why. They're because then guess what? You know what lawsuits come with? Depositions. You know what comes with depositions? Testimony. Well, all of a sudden you got to put actual numbers out there, and then your stuff gets revealed. And so here's the deal: we've been waiting for folks to do the right thing, and I understand Gabrielle's point, but actually it doesn't take that long of a time. When John Landgraf was at FX, and when he sent an email out to the entire company saying we cannot have 80+% of our showrunners and directors being white men, all of a sudden things begin to move. The only way this thing changes is when these lazy CEOs step up. Al Newhart, who was the CEO of Gannett in the 80s and 90s, he said, we're going to be the leading media company when it comes to diversity, and I'm tying your bonuses to it. And if you don't like it, you're more than welcome to leave the company. And people got pissed off, and he said, you can leave the company. Gannett became, in the span of 2 years, the top company when it came to diversity, because the CEO said, this is what we're doing. But you had that snowflake CEO, and that was the name of the company, who was on Bloomberg the other day, who talked about, oh, me and other CEOs privately, we talk about this, and you know, it's about merit and it's not about diversity. He was echoing what part of the problem is. And so the only way this changes is with ad agency CEOs. If corporations, if the leaders say, no, we're not going to keep playing the game. And we're going to penalize you if you do not change. That's why the brother at Coca-Cola who left as general counsel said, nah, I'm going to hit your pocketbook. You want to change America? You got to hit the money. It's as simple as that. Everything else is all cute. When you hit the money, then all of a sudden they get scared.
So here's the thing. Yeah, I agree 100%. But I also think that it can be started on the brand side, right? So here's a great example. One person, and I've said this before, one person could change the entire landscape of advertising. Mark Pritchard. If Mark Pritchard came out and said, hey, guess what, everybody? Anyone that touches any one of my business, I want them all to be diverse. And this is what my diverse teams would look like. I want someone in leadership. I want this. I want that. I want this percentage. And I need this done in 90 days.
I said the exact same thing to Walmart last year to the CEO when I spoke to him. I said, y'all at Walmart. I said, y'all in 5,000 cities. If Walmart says, this is it, dude, done.
Right.
You shift the entire industry.
And you'd see a domino effect. Right, because when P&G does stuff, everyone falls in line, right? So let me ask you all. Let's talk because we have about 10 or so minutes left. I want to talk about action, right? So how do we get to how do we push this space? How do we get that change? Because I know it's tiring. I have a lot of back channel conversations with people. I do a lot of stuff on social media to inspire other people. If we're talking to a lot of people here, so what can people here do?
I'll do a shameless plug again for We All Rise Together. I love this industry kind of community that is banding together, around 3 really key issues, right? I think it's a matter of taking the bite-sized pieces, right? We All Rise Together is talking about health and wellness. They're talking about mobility of people through our industry. And then we're talking about wealth building, right? And we're partnered in all of those spaces, right? With Black psychologists, Black female psychologists, and psychiatrists to really talk about self-care, right? Making sure that we can emerge back into our workplaces without, fear. That's a thing, right? We're all about to go back to work, and I hope people haven't been lying through the Zoom, right? Because all of a sudden, all of your Black, your brown, your AAPI, they're coming to work. And I hope the audio matches the video, right? So that they can feel that way. And then we're talking about mobility, right? We were disproportionately laid off during this crazy time frame, right? And making sure that our folks are skilled up and ready for the jobs, that they left, but the jobs that are coming, right? The ones that are coming tomorrow. How do we make sure we consistently do that? And then lastly, again, making sure that there are more and more places for us to choose to be. So we're not forced to be in a uncomfortable environment, right? We should be able to have choices as well. So we have to build our wealth. Right? We have to build our communities, and in partnership, right? We've been working with the Acceleration Project. We want to make sure that those are funded, right? There's all this money out there that people have pledged, but yet I'm working with a partner that needs funding, right? To do more of the work that is necessary to raise the visibility and the optimal operations of our Black and brown businesses as well.
So here, go ahead, Gabrielle. Were you going to say something? I don't. Okay, so
actually, I was good. You said action.
Go, yeah.
Okay, this first right here, brands. It's your money. It's not the agency's money. They work for you, and I've experienced this. I've had conversations with brands, and the brands like Roland. We know you. We know your connection with African Americans. Your show, your numbers look great. Call the agency. Agency goes, what's your metrics? And I've said to the client, if y'all want to do the deal, tell them just process the paperwork. No, then the agency wants to make sure to go through a new vetting process. But I'm like, is it not your money? See, this is real simple. If somebody who works for me, they don't tell me how to spend my money. I tell them, execute what I tell you to execute. And so brands have got to say, this is our money. This is what we are doing. Second, on the agency side, you got to have folks with guts walk in and say, where's your list of Black-owned media? No, not BET. No, not don't give me black targeted, give me black owned. I've had advertising agencies say, well, you know, these they're too small. Go out and find them. What's the list? Who are they? What are their media kits? Folks have to demand these things and stop trying to do the cop out. And so you got to have these two forces. You got to have folks in the agencies who are demanding things actually happen, who are demanding data, who are and getting rid of the excuses. And then you got to have the brands who are making it clear it's our money. Because let me be real clear, we're talking to the brands. The things that we're doing with Byron and Todd and Butch, we're going directly to the brands by saying, we're not wasting our time talking to your agencies because we've been getting the runaround for them for years. And so agencies need to understand that's how we're playing it. And so I'm saying to the brands, you're going to be most affected because if we tell black people you're not spending any money with black-owned media, you're going to have a problem as a brand. My suggestion, you be a little bit more proactive and tell your agency, get in line.
Yeah, if I can build on that from a creative agency perspective, an action that I think would be so simple is using your privilege and position to say, no, we can't take this job on. And brands come to agencies all the time, I'm assuming, and say, I want to talk to Black audience. I want to sell this product targeted towards the Black audience. Let's do it. I would love it if someone would raise their hand like, listen, we would love to take this project on, but I don't have the diverse team to achieve that. Let me point you, let me call Monique. Let me call a Black-owned agency. Let me partner with a Black-owned agency or just give it away. I don't need the money. And so it's almost like that, give your seat up on the bus. I think people are not willing to sacrifice any bit of coin. It's just like, I'm going to pass this job to the next creative because I don't need to make another script right now, but this young intern, she's ready. Put her up. And so I love this idea of, as brands are coming to agencies, if you are not equipped to service that job or take on that brief, or to have the diverse team that it really needs to create an authentic message, pass it on. And I know, you know, we've had this conversation about some of the news hits that we've seen in the news, and it's like, why go to that agency? They clearly don't have the diversity play, and you don't need that money, you know? Like, it's like when Vogue uses another white photographer to shoot another Black athlete, that photographer could have said, you know, I did the last 5 covers. Why don't we give this one to Joshua Kissy? Or, you know, so it's just, I think that sacrifice, that pass on, that allyship, that's action that literally is as simple as saying no. So or
going to the heart of it. I was at TV One, and every time I had a major interview, they would send a white photographer. Now, I ain't got a problem with white photographers. And the TV One is a Black-owned network. I said, y'all don't go find some Black photographers.
Yeah.
Go read Ed Lewis's book. Early on with Essence, Gordon Parks was using white photographers, and they were like, yo, he got boycotted by Black photographers. So even when you got some Black folks in charge, you got to have somebody Black saying, no. Y'all, we gonna spread the wealth. We're not gonna keep using the same folks. And you force people to go create the list. And they say, well, we can't find any. Well, you better go find somebody who know them and come back with some names, because no, can't find none is unacceptable.
Absolutely. All my last work, Black editor, Black lighting tech, Black DP, all those things. And we will literally pause a production if they can't find one. Nope, here, well, let me go find you one. Here's 20 people, you know. I was on set the other day, and this the mother of a young model came up to me in tears and said, wow, I've never seen an all Black crew, Black photographer, Black gaffer, everything. And I'm like, well, this is what most of my sets look like. And
but they saw all white crew.
Yeah. And that was so sad because this young Black girl had never had her hair braided by a Black hairstylist on set. And so, you know, as creatives, the best part of my job is being able to give jobs to other Black creatives and to take up space and to show young kids on set that they can be in these positions. And so that is at least the actions that I can take. And other, you know, you don't have to be Black to take that action. Well, hold on, go give me 5 other DP options. Well, okay, let's pause the production, go back, give me another one.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Gabrielle. And that's such a valid point, right? It's about
intentional and
reaching back. So look, I want to get to a couple questions that came over here. So Brandy Rad actually asked, and I'm going to kind of build on her question. She said, yes, any choices on places to be? Let's actually change that question to, is there any organizations, companies, we're going agencies, brands, whatever, that you all feel are doing a good job of the work? Crickets. Okay.
Yes. No.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, yes, there are. I mean, of course, listen, people are on, I would never call out any one individually, right? I think at this point, I know that there are some big brands, right? You talked about P&G. They are on a path to doing really great stuff, right? I think it's about the journey. I think about the people that are making commitments. And I'm really proud of the folks that are making multi-year commitments to this, right? I know it's not today. I don't really talk to any client about any type of effort in this regard that's under 3 years, right? We're not talking about anything that's under 3 years. If you want to see the real progress, if you want to see the outcomes that you'd like to create, you're going to be hanging out with us for about 3 years, right? So if you're not prepared to do that and do the real work around the systems, the infrastructure, and ultimately how you can really change the paradigm in your organization, because these are huge, then let's not talk about today, tomorrow. Let's talk about what the next 6 months look like for you. What is the accountability factors there? What are we going to talk about in 2022? And then ultimately, what can we talk about reaching in 2023? First and foremost, most people are working every day. We're talking about reskilling. We're talking about getting all of the books that Roland is referencing into like your new consciousness, right? Raising you up. And it's a learning curve, right? To that point, we've got to make sure that we're learning, that we are actively putting things in place so that we can be accountable and call people out on their BS if it rears itself, right? But let's give everybody the ability to get started, get going, and really talk about, do you want to really be here when this whole thing switches?
I'm not shouting anybody out until I see results. I said it at the top. I don't give a damn about your announcements. If it's a 3-year initiative, holler at me in 3 years. But I'm not going to give anybody a pat on the back right now for an announcement. I need to see the results. They've gotten over with the pat on the backs with the announcements before. Yeah. That to me is a dangerous deal. So you want my praise?
What we're seeing,
show me something.
I think what you're hitting on, right, and I speak about this a lot, is the fact that a lack of transparency. Right, so people are saying we've donated $50 million. I haven't seen where the 50. I mean, look.
Hold on, Walter. Hold that right there. And that's the problem. Stop giving black folks aid. We want investment. Don't come to us with philanthropy. If I donated 50 million, but you're spending 5 billion. Well, hell, if you actually spend 10% of your 5 billion with black companies, that's 500 million. Yeah. See, for 500 million spend versus a $50 million give, it's a huge deal. We as a community have fallen for the philanthropic aid. No, I'm talking investment. Yeah. And that's the difference.
Well, I mean, I'm going to ask one more question before I go there. I'm just going to say it's the same reason why we see that, companies saying, hey, we're going to go up from 2 to 3% or 4% to all these black-owned media, right, companies, right? But the biggest problem is that increase is going to the same, like I could count those black-owned media agencies on one hand. And so the same money is going to the same people. And that's not making an impact on people of color, more specifically black people. But let me go to the next question. This actually came by a good friend of mine, Lincoln. This is going to be a bit of a loaded one. We're going to land on this one. Juneteenth, right? He had said, as a fellow Texan, who feels about how he feels about companies making it a paid holiday, how should it be viewed or commemorated, right? White employees getting paid off of a day that commemorates a white lie.
Well, hell, July 4th was a white lie for us. Look.
It's the second.
I get, y'all, look, I'm from Texas. It was a state holiday. Rest in peace, my Alpha brother, State Representative Al Edwards, who's the father of Juneteenth in Texas. It's a state holiday. You can't sit here and say, well, this state holiday is going to be for the black folks, not for the white folks. And then July 4th, hey, y'all weren't free on July 4th. So guess what? It's for the white folks, not the black folks. The issue is not who gets off for Juneteenth. The issue is your company trying to all of a sudden pimp Juneteenth for an opportunity, and who they spending money with?
Look, we could do this for another 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah, we could.
For a long time. But what I would recommend is Roland. Let's do a part 2 on your show, man. Same crew. Let's bring it back. Let's go further.
But Doc, that ain't a problem. Remember, I ain't got to ask nobody. We can do 2
There it
hours.
is. There it is. There it is. And look, I just want to say, thank you to the 3 of you for being here, for engaging, for being truthful, for being candid, for being authentic. Like, this matters. These conversations matter, right? And this is not about angry black man, angry black woman. This is about us voicing our opinion on how we feel, right? And we would like to, I would love to know that there are people of color that are watching this and learning from it, but also non-POCs who are saying, yes, you know what, now I have something to take back to my work or to my job, to my team. It's important that we learn from these types of conversations. So I would again say thank you to everybody that was involved here. And please, Adrian, get this up online so we can share it, because what we said needs to be shared with everybody.
And I can't wait to have Monique and Gabrielle's clients advertise on my show. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, I was going to drop that. Let's just be clear. I'm going to ask, as Frank Lucas said, I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that money.
Run, rolling that money. Roll him that money.
I'm going to get that money.
Thank you all so much.
Hey,
so
take it easy.
Participating. And we will see you next time. Up next is our 2 o'clock session that's being sponsored by IAB. So we hope that you all will join us at 1 p.m. We will see you soon. Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Monique, Gabrielle, and Walter. We'll see you next time.